We're talking about vehicular homicide today, which is a death of someone while you're in operation of a vehicle, and while in operation of that vehicle, you're also considered illegally intoxicated, right? And usually by a blood test to determine the amount of blood alcohol, or by a drug test to determine that you're under the influence, right? And Ryan Volo, my partner's here, who was a prosecutor for 10 years in East Benders Parish. Talk about what, from the prosecutor perspective, I know you prosecuted a few of these cases. Tell me about it.
As far as being a former prosecutor, it's interesting to start talking about the vehicular homicides because there's a couple things that you need to look at. One, the blood draw, right? Because usually, like you said, there is the code does define that you can get a blood draw if there's a serious bodily injury. Now, being on the other side and doing criminal offense, you got to see if it was voluntarily given. You got to see if there was a warrant, depending on what the circumstances are, whether that's an actual valid warrant or a valid reason to do a blood draw for prosecuting the cases. And I'll tell you on that end of it, you get what is given to you. You don't, generally, the state gets what the law enforcement has given them, and you run with it, and you listen to what law enforcement has. There's not really much more that goes into it. Somebody's dead, the person's impaired, however it may be, and then there has to be a proximate cause or connection between the crime of the crash itself or killing and the impairment.
Yeah, the Supreme Court of the state of Louisiana changed that 4 years ago or 5 years ago. So there's no longer a proximate cause test.
There is.
No, there's not.
I'm telling you there is.
No, there's not.
It was and I'm telling you the case was State v. It was a Baton Rouge case. And I'm trying to think of the name of this, but there's still it has to be some connection. So it is State v.
So connection, yes. Proximate cause, no. That's my point. So it used to be a proximate cause. Hold on, I'm going to look it up. In DWI death, Louisiana. I'm telling you right now that it used to be that it was a proximate cause, such that, for instance, if someone didn't have their seatbelt on and they were ejected, you could argue that the lack of the seatbelt and the ejection was the cause of death because everyone else in the car lived. Sure. And that the seatbelt caused the death, and it wasn't the alcohol that was the proximate cause. It was the lack of their own, putting their seatbelt on.
State v. Legalities is the case that you're looking at.
Okay.
And I'll tell you that's the case because it was a Baton Rouge case, and it's a case that the prosecutors, two individuals, decided to race their cars, if I'm not mistaken, and they were drag racing on the interstate, and one of them was not impaired, one of them was, and then it becomes whether or not they both got in an accident, and so is it vehicular negligent homicide, or is it not based on the alcohol? Because you have two people doing the exact same thing, one's impaired and one's not, and so then it becomes what's the question, and that's what the case law came down to is State v. Legalities, which was about 4 years ago, and they did change the law. But I'll tell you, but as far as it needs to be part of the crime itself is the alcohol, and you may be right on it's not a proximate cause, but it has to be a connection to the crime.
Right. That's right. So what the Supreme Court did was it used to be. They had this proximate cause analysis, but it's not anymore. It's just that the alcohol was present and some kind of connection to the crime itself. That's a lesser burden for the prosecution.
Contributing cause, I think, is what it is. I know it's not a proximate cause; it's contributing,
which is completely different.
It's a different standard.
That's right. But contributing cause means it was some factor, some measure of some measurable amount.
That's right.
Proximate cause means it was the actual cause, like but for. Right, proximate cause in Louisiana is a but-for analysis. But for the alcohol, this would not have occurred, which is a pretty strong analysis. Contributing factor is 5%, 10%, who knows? It's nothing, right? And so It was a lessening of the burden the prosecution had to carry in order to show that someone was guilty of negligent homicide. It did,
and that was the Legalities case. Homicide. Yeah, for vehicular homicide, State v. Legalities. And it's one of those things that it did lessen the burden, but you still have to be able to prove that that's a part of the crime. And the reason that this crime happened. It's not just because there's alcohol involved. We've had cases in the past, me and you, where the individual...
We have one right now.
We have plenty of them right now. But one of them was the guy... It was,
well, we have one right now where the cause or the lack of cause has won the day.
Yeah.
And where we got negligent homicide for somebody. Instead of a 20-year exposure on vehicular homicide, we got a probatable offense of negligent homicide because it was clear that there was alcohol there, but it was not the cause in any way of the accident
Well,
itself.
when we
In any shape or either approximate or contributing. It wasn't a cause at all.
There was a case me and you worked on where there was an individual that was impaired, completely impaired. I think he had a 1.5, whatever the legal limit is, 0.08, right?
Right.
But the person was in the middle of the night, and the person was standing in the middle of the street, and he couldn't avoid it, and he hit him.
And our client, to be clear, coming around a curve in a Ford F-250, swerved while controlling his vehicle and not losing control of the vehicle, missed the guy completely except for the rearview mirror,
The side mirror, yeah.
which hit him and killed him.
That's right.
And what we showed was, because we had a video from someone's house of how late, how much time there was between when the man lit up in the middle of the road and how much reaction time there was, we showed that the man reacted, steered his vehicle around the person in the road, kept control of the vehicle the entire time, and managed to not just plow into him, but almost miss him entirely. And then, of course, we had the added. So we showed that he was in pretty good control of his vehicle at the time. He wasn't out of control. He wasn't acting like he was impaired. But also we showed additionally that there was some very strong evidence that the man who was standing in the road was trying to take his own life.
That's right.
He was attempting to stand in the road in order to have someone kill him. It was an act of suicide.
In fact, it was. I think you're wrong on that end of it. I think the guy had some mental health issues,
right,
and was just not trying to kill himself, but maybe even sleptwalk into the road and was just standing, sleeping. Like, it was weird. It was a weird case.
It was a weird case, but we did have some evidence from his sister that he was not
okay.
Yeah, he was not happy with his life, and maybe had been attempting to do so. And it's a great case, because the point is that guy, you know, for all intent and purpose, he was intoxicated legally, right?
That's right.
But it was clear that he was under control of his vehicle. It was clear that he was not out of control. It was not somehow went to avoid the person. I mean, it was not somehow just wandering on the street, not paying attention. He was paying a lot of attention, and in the moments, I mean, the seconds he had to react, he reacted in a way that you would hope everyone would. I think he did anything that should. In fact, he probably negotiated that humongous truck in a way that a lot of people would have crashed it. But he did so without losing control of his automobile, and yet still, unfortunately, killed this guy. So, and no, that was a good outcome in that case. And again, I think I think the analysis is correct there, that it was neither the proximate cause nor a contributing factor.
That's right.
To the death of that guy. I think that standing in the middle of the road in the middle of the night, and a road that's not lit up, was the complete and 100% cause of his death. So,
and I can tell you one of those things, that's a tough case, because without that video, now it becomes, do you believe the person that was intoxicated?
Right.
And that's what it comes down to. You
know? Or do you believe whether the guy was on the side of the road walking or in the middle of the road? We could actually show that he was standing in the lane of travel, not moving.
That's right. That's right.
He was just standing in the lane of travel. We still have a picture. I mean, we have video of him just standing in the lane of travel.
Right.
And so that was sort of a godsend that we had that for our client, for sure. So.
That's right.
But anyway, so that's a pretty straightforward analysis of the vehicular homicide law, and kind of how we go about the process of getting through one of our cases, right? Ryan and I have these same kind of discussions where we agree and don't agree with each other.
And that's
where we kind of argue, and what we find in the middle of that, from sometimes a prosecutor's perspective, a lifelong criminal defense attorney's perspective, what we find in the middle in there is a way through, right? We figure out how to navigate the water of the law and evidence in our cases, and in so doing, we figure a way through the tough water sometimes. So.
And we may not agree on everything, but at the same time, we also bounce ideas off each other to get to the bottom line of the best resolution.
That's right. That's right. So if you're in a tough spot, if you find yourself, on the wrong side of the criminal justice system, give us a call here at the Ambo Law Firm. We're here to walk you through. We're here to guide you through the process.